So we have a group of people just getting into the blockchain space or crypto space. Can you give one sentence to tell people why this is so important?
The great thing about cryptocurrency is that it is not tied to a government. Governments control you by controlling your currency. Governments have to switch from control to service. Governments have to start thinking in terms of how do I attract citizens to my government, as opposed to you live here, you work for me. And I think that is going to be a change that's slowly starting to happen around the world. I think the Japanese government has recognized this. They said, recognizing that there was some question as to whether people would accept Bitcoin, they said Bitcoin's a national currency in Japan. And that attracted people to Japan. It attracted entrepreneurs, businesses, money. They all decided they'd go there because they thought, well, Japan is thinking of the future. And Japan is thinking of attracting me to their country. Other countries are not doing that. And I think they need to. I think they need to recognize that the world is now open, and as a government, you have to serve your people instead of the other way around.
Got it. So as a venture capitalist, also you yourself is also an entrepreneur yourself, do you have 3 recommendations for people who are just thinking about have their own startup?
One is look around at all the technologies that are out there and see how you can use one of those technologies and apply that to the industry that you're in. And see if you can create a technological edge in your business. The second thing is make sure you surround yourself with really good people who you have a lot of faith in, who can do the things that you can't do for your business, or who do the things you don't want to do for your business. And then the third thing is take the first step. Just do it. Just get out there, take a step, try it, see what happens. And then I guess if I had a fourth, it would be apply to Draper University.
Sure, definitely. So for right now, the market is really bearish. So what do you think the market will come back? When?
The market bounces around based on what somebody says in the press. And that they believe it, and then they believe something else, and then they believe something else. I am bullish long term because I believe that no one will want to hold on to a currency that's tied to a government when there's a currency that's just as good that is decentralized and not tied to a government. So most people will move to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. But the transition is what we're talking about. There's a certain amount of time that's required for it to be really easy for us to trade in Bitcoin rather than dollars right now. Because the only people who will take Bitcoin from me today are people who are maybe 35 years old or younger. Because they all say Bitcoin's going to be much more valuable. If you're 35 years or older, those people are saying, no, we want dollars, we want renminbi, we want the old way. And so we've got a new wave coming, and I kind of gave it like 4 years where the engineers would have time to build it up, and it would also allow for the information to proliferate the world. So those two things.
What are your top 3 altcoins?
Okay, I'm not going to say because
that will change stuff.
Well, I look for altcoins. I mean, you can look up what I've invested in. I invest in altcoins that are tied to a lot of work. Someone who's really dedicated to them, someone who has created new technology around them. Because if you're just an altcoin for the purpose of being an altcoin, you might as well be Bitcoin. It's just that there are all these uncertainties created by these governments that are run by like the grandparents of the people who are creating this new industry, and they don't get it. And it's very frustrating for the people who are creating the industry. So you have you have these regulators who are 70, 80 years old, and they are the ones telling these 20-something-year-olds what they should be doing, but they're the same people who have given them huge education debt, poor education, not appropriate for their work life, and now they're trying to tell them not to do something that is actually creating a whole new economy. I mean, if I'm a millennial, I'm deeply in debt. I have an education that's not appropriate to the jobs that I have to go find, and I'm kind of, it's like I'm lost. But there's this big opportunity. All of a sudden, there's Bitcoin, there's crypto, there's a whole new world out there that hasn't been destroyed by the regulators. Now the regulators are coming in and they're making it very difficult on people, but any country that gets highly regulated gets poorer, more poverty, and any country that's free gets richer. And I think the US is trying to figure this out. I know Japan has figured out, make it free, make us rich. Japan thinks I have to control and regulate. I mean, China says I've got to control and regulate, and they're going to create a bunch of poverty. So, and it usually takes 20 years, so by that time they've moved on. But they are ruining the lives of many, many people by putting in too many controls or too many restrictions or too many regulations. So when you see the FDA or the SEC or FASB, any of these big institutional regulators come in heavy-handed, they are destroying the potential for growth and wealth in their country.
Right, at least some easier in.
But easier in. Let's let these things flourish. Who knows what creativity is going to come out of these ICOs?
Right.
I mean, when the internet came along, the governments were trying to shut it down. And all of a sudden, think of what's happened with the internet. All of our lives are so much fuller and more interesting and more dynamic. And I remember I'd spend hours and hours waiting for somebody to come pick me up when my car broke down. Now, if your car breaks down, you leave it on the side of the road, you go, boom, I got an Uber. It all happens so quickly. That never would have happened if the internet hadn't happened. So and if we hadn't let the internet go, let it be free. The freer, the richer. Freedom equals prosperity, regulation equals poverty.
Have you seen, in your personal experience, businesses moving away from the U.S.? That's something like...
Oh, tons.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, and moving away from California. That's why I want 3 Californias. I want a fresh start. Everybody wants to leave California. Anybody in business wants to leave California because even though the weather's awesome and their friends are probably here, all of the incentives are to leave. And also to leave the U.S., but that's a different set of incentives.
Blockchain-wise or in general, you're saying?
In general, the taxes are higher here, the services are worse, education's worse, the roads are poor, all of that. You go to Texas, they have no personal income tax, they have great roads, they have a free government, encourages innovation. You need that. New York, where you guys are, they have the problem that California does. They are over-regulated. They're on top of each other. They don't let anybody do anything without filling out forms to do it.
Yeah, it's another complicated thing about the states is that you have like this micro.
But it's a good thing about the states because they have to now compete for us.
Yeah.
Used to be pretty much all the states were competing and felt that way, and they worked hard to provide good service to you. When was the last time a bureaucrat said to you, what can I do to make your life better? How can I improve your business environment?
Never.
How can I improve? They used to do that. 25 years ago, I remember I walked into a government office with my father and they said, how do I improve your business environment? How do I make your home life better? how can I improve your child's education? That was the attitude that government had, and that's why my father has such great feelings about the government. And the reason I don't is because I saw that switch. Like all of a sudden it went from what can I do for you to what are you going to do for me?
When was that?
About 20 years ago.
Okay.
About 20 years ago, all of a sudden it was like, have you filled out form 12CB? I'm sorry. Oh, and I think you have to talk to this regulator too, because I don't think we're going to allow you to have a party there. They're not letting money out. They're not letting people use crypto. They're not letting people use Bitcoin to pay. And what that does is it pushes out all the best entrepreneurs, pushes them to wherever.
Right.
And it creates more poverty there because all of those people then are constrained. If you're constrained, you're poorer. If they say you can't move, you're going to starve. And that's pretty much what, too much regulation will do for you. And so that's China.
But the separation of blockchain and crypto, like this is artificial, I feel like, separation. Can you talk a little bit about that?
It makes no sense.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, if you're going to run something on the blockchain, you're going to need Bitcoin to do it. If you're going to do something in Bitcoin, it's using the blockchain. These are intertwined.
Right.
Now, there are some other blockchains being created, which is great, competitive blockchains. I'm a believer in, having competition because I, as a consumer, end up with a better service.
Right.
But somehow trying to separate those and say, oh, we're going to allow all the technology in, we're just not going to let you use it.
Right. That's what it is.
What are they thinking? They're basically saying, yeah, go keep creating stuff. We're not going to let you use it, and we're not going to let you have money leave our country. So, where's the benefit for an entrepreneur there? That's why they're all buying houses in Palo Alto.
Right.
All the Chinese are saying, well, God, let's get out of there. Or they're moving to Japan where they're welcome. All the young people are moving to Japan. They're saying, well, wow, this government accepts Bitcoin as a national currency. I want to be a part of that.
Right. And has just more.
Like, do we listen to the guy who runs the biggest bank in the world when he says we shouldn't use Bitcoin?
Well, yeah.
Well, why listen to that?
Right.
Because the guy is realizing that people are taking pieces, 1%, 2%, 5% of their money out of his bank
Right.
and putting it into crypto.
Right, obviously.
So he's totally,
Yeah.
disinterested. He's very interested in this, and he is very nervous that he's going to lose all those customers, and he will. Over time, he will.
Yeah.
There's no reason. It just feels like crypto generally will replace all fiat because it's just better currency, and all the best engineers in the world are working on that. They're not working on how to improve services for the dollar.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, based on that, what you just said, that fiat will eventually be replaced by crypto.
Yeah.
Is that what you see as like...
By the way, that's $100 trillion market.
Yeah.
So that means that we have a long way to go in the crypto market. We're now in the hundreds of billions. It's like, it's got 1,000 times on what it is now to go.
Yeah. But in terms of like how that happens, do you see it being important that like one currency kind of emerges? Like it could be Bitcoin, it could be another.
No, I like competition. I think it's great. I think Bitcoin is clearly the leader, and it will be the standard by which all the other currencies will have to compete. It'll be the equivalent of Microsoft in software, that kind of thing. But it could end up being Yahoo for search, where Google came and got a bigger share. So things can happen, but when you have that front position, and whenever there's a new technology, you add it to that currency, it's very likely that Bitcoin will be the largest and biggest currency because they have a network effect.
Right.
It grows as the network grows.
Right. So you don't see there being any need for a universal, like, it doesn't need to be one currency that becomes a universal.
No.
unit of
I like
exchange.
the idea that they'll all have to compete with each other, and I like the idea that they'll all be tradable into each other. And and now they're tradable into fiat too, but I think that'll be less important over time. I think more important once more companies like you can get a Kentucky Fried Bitcoin bucket, which is only available to be paid for in Bitcoin. In Canada, it's a Canadian thing. And then there are all these houses and yachts and whatever that are all, I get these emails, only available in Bitcoin. You can't like pay dollars for them. I think more and more that'll happen, and we'll be in a position where people laugh at you if you try to pay fiat currency for your coffee.
What about the volatility of cryptocurrency? How do you see that either being stabilized so that it can be used as money more easily? You can buy coffee and not worried about how much you're spending tomorrow, for example. Or is it going to be something that we sort of we have a currency that we use as money and a currency that we use to store value, separate out the use cases of money?
Whenever I hear this volatility question, I think, okay, well, one Bitcoin is still just worth one Bitcoin. It is very stable. All these other currencies, these fiat currencies, are volatile against it and falling away over time. And so when they say volatility, I think, yeah, they're panicking. They go up, they go down. One Bitcoin is still one Bitcoin, and it will continue to be. And so I think I'm not really thinking that it's volatile. I'm thinking, it's Bitcoin, and it should be spent as you need to spend it.
That's great. One
Yeah.
Bitcoin is one Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Good.
for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure. Give you a fist bump.